Welcome to Tech Talks, Evolving Distribution. I'm Corey Hayes, and with me is Bill Rosado. Today, we're exploring how digital transformation is reshaping the distribution industry.
That's right. From e-commerce platforms to CRM tools, we talk with industry experts about how distribution can embrace these changes and thrive in the ever-changing space.
Whether you're just getting started or looking for new insights, we've got you covered. Today's episode is packed with information to help you navigate the digital shift.
So let the tech talk begin.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Evolving Distribution. Corey Hayes, your host, and as always, Bill Rosado along with me. And today we have from Aspens Media, Lindsay Young. Lindsay, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for jumping on. We're excited to start the conversation with you where we talk all things digital transformation. We've had a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different just industry leaders and experts on, and you are our very first marketing expert that we've had on.
Exciting.
So yes, very first one. So we're really looking forward to getting into the conversation today. Before we do that, why don't you just run us through a quick little introduction on who you are, what it is you do, how you came into the marketing space, just to let our listener get to know you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Lindsay. I'm the president and founder of Aspens Media. Before I started Aspens Media in 2015, I was the editor at Modern Distribution Management. So I like to say that I kind of got a graduate level education in wholesale distribution when I was at MDM. I always had a business journalism background, but it was at MDM when I really got to know the distribution industry. So I've been writing for, helping to educate distributors for probably 20 years or so now, which just kind of blows my mind that it's been that long. So now with Aspens Media, we help distributors, manufacturers, technology companies that serve those two demographics, consultants and other companies that kind of work in this space to better communicate their value proposition, create content that's going to support the sales cycle, make sure that their website is doing all that it can do, because websites don't function without good content. Create content such as case studies, white papers, that sort of thing. Support all around, making sure that distributors and other companies are communicating, their value in a way that's supporting their customers.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a great story. As far as your roadmap, right? How you came from a big magazine to just being in the trenches, right? Really helping distributors. So, and we do e-commerce, right? So one of the biggest challenges that people have is that whole digital transformation as far as a website. Can you tell me, like, what are things that make it successful as far as a digital transformation project?
Yeah, sure. And we work a lot with websites, obviously, because a lot of content is digital these days and how you communicate is digital. And I think I'm going to give you kind of a general vague answer, but I think it's important, right? I think when you start really with the problem, and maybe you've heard this answer before, but when you start with the problem, right, and not necessarily the technology, I think that's when distributors see the most success. Not I need e-commerce because, XYZ supply has e-commerce. Instead, our customers need ways to self-service. We need to be able to serve their need to research on their own on their website. How can we do that best, caters to the specific demographic that we serve, right? Contractors are going to be different than manufacturers are going to be different than institutions, et cetera, right? So starting with the problem, not the tech, and not a feature list. And I think that's true no matter how big the project is. You could have a big, wide e-commerce project. You could have a small project to improve your email communications or managing leads. No matter the size, I think starting with the problem is good first. I do think that many distributors, however, have a lot of problems that should be solved through digital transformation. Even though I would never say just adopt tech for the sake of tech. Always identify the problem you're trying to solve, but I think that's an endless list. I think the other thing that defines success in digital transformation, and again, this seems obvious, but I think a lot of distributors struggle with it anyway, is just having buy-in across the board, right? So I'm naming two things that are not specifically technology, but I think they're critical. So I just helped Brian Gardner, who is a consultant in CRM, super passionate about helping companies implement CRM in a way that actually works. And I just helped him write a book about that. And much of the book really focuses on the importance of leadership and getting your team's buy-in, because without that, you're going to fall flat. So I think, to me, big, broad statements, but I think those two things are absolutely critical to success with digital transformation.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like an old sales adage, right? You focus on the problem, not the product. And I think that's a really important factor to pull out in all this, because a lot of times I think when you go to do discovery in somebody's situation, in somebody's circumstance, you kind of see that they really haven't done discovery on themselves. Like they know that they have problems, but they can't specify the problems to you. And to really understand where your current problems are, where you're lacking, where your business is lacking, is really the first step to a successful transformation and understanding. So doing a good diagnostic test on the health of your business and where you're falling short. Absolutely. Yeah. I agree with you.
Do you mind if I add to that?
No, go ahead.
Great. I think the thing that is often missing in that self-diagnosis, though, is actually asking customers. And getting the input of your team, but also getting the input of your customers, and understanding how they interact with your business, what they are looking for, what might be lacking, what maybe a competitor has that they don't have that's making them go there instead of to that distributor. So I just wanted to kind of encourage distributors to spend time either talking to customers yourself or engage someone to do that for you. That can be really invaluable, I think, in the process of identifying, where the true gaps exist.
Yeah, absolutely. So 3 Aspens started in 2015. So happy 10-year anniversary to 3 Aspens. Yeah. So across 10 years, really kind of another pivotal question here is, how has digital transformation, and I know that's a broad scope, but how is it changing the role of marketing specifically within distribution companies?
Yeah, well, I will say, because of the increase in the number of channels available today to customers, I think marketing now owns more of the buyer's journey, or they should. Or they should.
Yeah.
We know that in a lot of distribution companies, there's not a super robust marketing function. I think that's a missed opportunity, especially because of how digital channels have kind of transformed how customers interact or want to interact with their suppliers. So, for example, they can browse your website. They can go do their own research on the internet outside of your website, and they will. They can use a mobile app to communicate with you. They can call, of course. Now we're hearing about interacting with like AI agents, chatbots. So many different channels that a customer can interact with the distributor if they're taking advantage of that, that it really brings marketing in to the conversation in a bigger way. And all of these touch points, of course, are the result of digital transformation across the industry, or should be. I know that, some distributors have embraced that. Some are still waiting to see what's going to happen. I've said this a million times, but customers, they could be 70% of the way through the journey before they even pick up the phone or shoot an email off to talk to sales or a service rep. I'm sure you guys have heard that data point.
Yeah.
And marketing needs to lead those early stages, right? Because most of those prospects, they're not ready to buy, right? They're just not most of the time, so if you're bombarding them with buy this now messages, you're just going to annoy them. So, but the good news is that, speaking of digital transformation, is that technology really exists today to nurture those prospects without a lot of manual work. You have to have good strategy in place. You have to have the right tools. But you have to be able to give prospects the answers they're looking for before they even reach out, right? So you're talking about, if you're talking about an e-commerce site, you have to have good product data, good product content, application information, guides to product selection, maybe ROI calculators, general education comparison articles. There's a lot you need to do to enable kind of those earlier stages of the research process. If you don't mind, I have a few examples of maybe digital transformation
Sure, yes.
within marketing. I can tend to be a little long-winded, but I'll jump
No,
in.
this is great.
So self-service tools for buyers. You guys are very familiar with this, right? So the old way would be like buyers, and maybe this still happens a lot, but buyers call or email for pricing or whatever, right?
Sure.
Or ask for specs, quotes, information about the products, or they send a fax. So the new way, I think marketing can support the development of resource hubs, digital resource hubs. I already mentioned the website content. That's really important. Consulting on omni-channel capabilities with the customer experience in mind. Really understanding and defining that customer journey, and then helping identify tools that can enable that. And other things that can help buyers educate themselves and then move through the sales cycle faster. Another area that I'm kind of passionate about is like content portals for sales reps, whether that's a CRM or some other portal where marketing can create and manage digital asset libraries. So like with one-pagers, case studies, customer decks, and so on, so that sales is no longer just creating their own content or using old brochures or pulling, using supplier content's great, but a centralized library. Marketing automation, I'll talk a little bit more about this later, potentially, because it's something that I think is underused in distribution. So the old way, you send a manual email to 10,000 people on your list, and it might consist of a contractor and a procurement specialist from a university, right? Two very different markets. The new way is, you can use a platform like HubSpot or, Pardot or whatever to automate that nurturing, use behavior-based triggers, segment workflows based on interest or sales stage. A lot of these platforms have integrated AI into it, of course. So I think there's a lot of opportunities here to really personalize what's happening at scale. And then the last one I wanted to mention was sales and marketing integration through CRM. So I think the old way was marketing and sales working out of different systems. And now there's a lot of opportunity to integrate sales and marketing more closely, which historically in distribution, not necessarily how it worked. But I think technology is enabling maybe better lead management, better reporting, better sales enablement, better visibility of the entire customer journey, which both sales and marketing touches. So those are four examples of ways I think digital transformation is affecting the marketing function and then the organization overall that come to mind.
That's some great feedback, right? There's a whole lot that you just unpack there.
Yeah.
And right, your time in distribution, that there are people that are way ahead of the curve, but there's a huge group of people that are very far behind the curve, right? They are behind everything. So outside the industry, inside the industry, they're just struggling. So
Absolutely.
What advice do you have for that marketing leader within that somebody's just way far behind? What can they do, right, to kind of catch up or get to the beginning of the curve, right? The people are on the bleeding edge.
Yeah, it's a good question. There's two parts of this, right? One is, having the right talent in place, who understands this landscape and understands what's available out there. In some cases, I think, especially, and I'm trying to say this because I think distributors are doing their best with the resources they have, right? And they have always had really strong sales functions. And I think a lot of them have invested in marketing in recent years because they recognize the value. But I'm not always sure that the right high level marketing people are in place to really drive the strategic evolution of the role, for lack of a better phrase. It's a little jargony. But, and then the other point, of course, is that they have to have the right tools. But I do think today, and then I have a few other things I'll mention, but those tools are so much more accessible now than they were 10 years ago, right? Or 15 years ago. I mean, even a small distribution company can afford to do a lot of the things I'm talking about, right? It might be hard. Some things might be harder still because there's certain components in a distribution company related to data, and distributors have a lot of data, even small companies do. But even then, AI is kind of changing the game on that front. So I think technology is becoming a lot more accessible. So for a marketing leader, I would say there's a couple of things that I would say is start with wins that matter to other people. And when I talk about that, I'm talking about like projects that even small projects that might solve real pain points, especially for sales. I think if you can get sales on your side, and we've done this, we work with some manufacturers and distributors, and we spend a lot of time interviewing like sales reps and others who have frontline contact with customers and who are experts in the field, the industries that we're writing about. And over time, they really love it because they like to see the result of that, or they like to see their name on an article on the website, or they like to be a part of something that comes to fruition because of their expertise, right? Because you need that expertise. So, just an example, like getting sales on your side can go a long way to being able to like get buy-in to projects that are gonna support buyers across the entire journey. Like case studies, really simple things. I mentioned an ROI calculator. I'm sure that there's a configurator or something that makes it easier to select things online. Improving product content online you can track that impact pretty easily. Maybe some targeted email, but there's a lot of projects that I think can have a really quick win with others in the organization that probably have a lot more sway than the marketing team does. I'd also guess that some marketing teams have access to far more functionality in the systems that they use than they're actually taking advantage of. So I think it's possible to leverage those systems more fully for a lower cost way to start taking advantage of what's out there. I'm thinking of like, what am I thinking of? I'm thinking of like, if you're only using the email functionality on HubSpot, and I'm talking about really basic platforms here, but you're ignoring setting up like automated lead nurturing workflows for specific buyer roles, or you're not taking advantage of the buyer behavior functionality within like a HubSpot, based on engagement with an email or visit to a website, or not doing like automated abandoned cart emails or whatever, right? It's like super basic stuff that I think, maybe distributor marketing teams either haven't been able to or aren't taking advantage of in the systems that they already have. So I think that there's an opportunity to start small, identify some wins that support especially the sales team without spending a lot of money, just to showcase the potential for high ROI with really a low investment. Because I think in marketing especially, you can have a big impact with very little investment, because a lot of tools out there, are fairly accessible these days. So, yeah.
And that's great feedback, right? Because there is, when we go back to the very beginning, right? You're talking about change management and get people to buy in. A lot of people see marketing as just a giant expense, right? They just see dollars, right? They don't see that there are ways to do it and it not be over expensive. And matter of fact, it makes more sense, right, to do things you're talking about in order to get that return on investment than to spend a ton of money on Google ads that might result in.
Oh my gosh! Don't get me started. Yeah,
but it's a trap they fall into because there are people out there in the B2C space coming to our B2B people telling them this is what works, right? And you're saying no, these are the things that make sense. I really appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, it's based on the buyer journey today. Again, a lot of them are spending a lot of time online or doing their own research before they even reach out. So, I kind of call it the snowball effect. You're nurturing them with emails. You're providing them answers to their questions on your website, not the competitor's website. Everything kind of builds up so that when they're like, oh, wait, I actually need this product group as well. I noticed and read about blah, blah, blah on this distributor site. I'm going to go there first. It's staying top of mind, establishing yourself as an expert in what they're looking for, and leveraging tools that can help you do that efficiently, I think over time it has a really big impact, and it's so much more cost effective than hiring a bunch more sales reps, right? Who a lot of buyers don't want to talk to, not for basic interaction anyway.
Sure. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. We love our salespeople love good marketers.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think it can be a good partnership, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It should be. It should be. I kind of cringe whenever I hear a salesperson say, "Well, I just can't stand my marketing department." I'm like, "Oh, well, you probably want to fix that."
Yeah, it's too bad.
Okay, so question I have here, really, and I think you kind of touched on this, and I think we've really have talked about this as a whole throughout our conversation about that buy-in, right? But how can marketing support adoption and alignment during technology-driven change internally and externally within their company?
Yeah, I love this question because I kind of think it's a big missed opportunity in most companies. So let's say you're implementing e-commerce or something else that's going to touch the customer, but it also affects your internal team, right? Your sales reps need to be on board, that sort of thing. So I think if you have the right people and you have the right skill set in place in your marketing and comms teams, I think from an internal perspective, I think you should leverage them. Get them involved in the process in marketing to your team, right? Because whether it's implementing a CRM or launching e-commerce, that's a very long process, to get that buy-in and to get it up and going. And you need to keep your team engaged and, champions of that. I think marketers know how to use stories. They know how to create clear messaging, and they know the importance of consistent updates to build that buy-in. I also think, and I don't know if a marketing team is the right group for this because not all marketers are content developers, right? Marketing is a very big, broad bucket, and there's a lot of different skill sets within that. I happen to be an expert in the content side. So one thing that came to mind was supporting that training of like a CRM implementation with the content. So how-to guides, videos, cheat sheets, supporting that, packaging that in a way that makes it easier for people to adopt it. Capturing and sharing success stories, whether that's internal or external, showcasing how Bob in finances can now run invoices, in a third the time, whatever, or showcasing how ABC manufacturing company is leveraging the self-service tools on your website to do, to improve how quickly they place reorders or something, right? So leveraging your marketing team to help tell those stories in an effective way that can have a huge impact. And then also helping to communicate the why to customers. Anytime systems change, adding e-commerce, changing how you quote, anything, right? I think employing your marketing team early on to help tell the why of that to customers and get them to understand and how to use the tool and to showcase the additional value. I think that is a great use of your marketing team. Yeah, those are the things that come to mind.
Yeah, no, that's great. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
My last question would really just be, before our call started, Bill mentioned that he had really liked the content that he had seen and really liked what you're putting out and just what Aspens Media does, specifically because, we are in the distribution space and that's where you're at too. So my question would be, how can I find you and where can I find your content and where can I learn more about Aspens Media? Where could I find you at?
Absolutely. Thank you, Corey. Our website is 3aspensmedia.com. If you forget the S on the Aspen, you'll still make it to our website. So 3aspensmedia.com. You can also reach me at Lindsay at 3aspensmedia.com. You can reach out directly, and I'd love to hear from people. But I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, as you said, Corey. So maybe start there. Find me on LinkedIn and follow me, connect with me. I would love to chat with anyone. Our company also has a LinkedIn page. So those are a few of the ways. We also have some podcasts and stuff on our website. And some content there that could help in everything I was talking about, a lot of content. We try to live what we preach to others.
Yeah.
It's not always easy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of resources there you can leverage too. So.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, some great content, some great ideas and suggestions that you had. And there's a lot that you've kind of unloaded, right? Unpacked. But if I said, Hey, Lindsay, I can give you a billboard that every distributor is going to see. What's that one thing you would put on the billboard that they would see that they could take away from this call today?
Oh gosh. I don't know if I want to say the one thing that came to mind. I think don't ignore marketing in the digital transformation process. I think marketing has a lot to contribute, and there's a lot of opportunities to leverage marketing. And that is not a billboardable sentence. So maybe just don't ignore marketing.
Don't ignore marketing. Hey,
don't ignore marketing. They have a lot they could contribute. That could be really powerful. Yeah. So now I'm going to have to think about this some more, Bill. I'll have to reach out to you later with some additional ideas on that. But yeah.
Just, make the billboard, get the slogan, put it on a t-shirt, put it on LinkedIn. Here we go.
I do it. I have to do it. Now I have to do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay, for coming on and joining today. Thank you for all the expertise that you've given and the wealth of information that you've shared. We really do appreciate it. Bill, any final thoughts that you have?
I'm just thinking that people should listen to this, right? And if you're at a C-suite level, you should be thinking about these things, because sometimes what Lindsay's saying, right? You're moving into digital transformation. You're not thinking about how we're going to market it, right? Internally and externally. Like there's multiple parts and pieces to this whole marketing. But I really appreciate the feedback you gave. And I hope people not just hear this, but they share it, right, within their organization. So everybody understands that marketing is their friend, and you need to put all this together. You just can't move forward in an IT situation. You got to get sales and marketing involved.
Yes, everybody's on the same team. We're all moving towards the same goal, right?
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, Lindsay, if you don't have anything else for us, I think we're ready to wrap up this episode, and we appreciate you, listener, coming on and joining us for another episode of Tech Talks Evolving Distribution. We will see you next time.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Tech Talks Evolving Distribution. Thanks for tuning in.
And we hope you've gained some valuable insights on how to embrace digital transformation and stay ahead in the distribution industry.
A special thanks to our sponsor, Aldrich Web Solutions, for supporting this podcast. With over 20 years of experience, they've been helping distributors win online and maximize their digital presence. Be sure to check them out if you're ready to take your business to the next level.
And if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. And of course, share this with anyone who could benefit from this conversation.
We'll be back next time with more expert insights. And until then, keep evolving and embracing change.